Hey, hey. So since there's not that many people, I can give my hellos. Hello, Puss in Boots. Hey, Lily. Hey, Amelia. Hey, Julie. Hey, Mary Ellen. Hey, Jane. Hey, Pop Trauma. Hey, Leo's wife. Hey, Bonnie. Hey, Susie Q. Hey, Pivotal Comic. Starting off slow. I'll give it a few minutes. What's up, Cuban Witch? Hey, Jackie. Trying all day to no avail. Hopefully to catch up here. Completely lost. I know, Jackie, you know what? Honestly, I've had the same problem because I've been trying to find more stuff on this case, and it's like nothing's around. All you can find is little clips and pieces, but you can't find much stuff. It's crazy. What's up, Kathy? My day has been crazy. Crazy. What's up, Huckleberry? Hey, Kelly. Hey, Carrie. Yeah, I was looking on. I spent literally like an hour looking for stuff. I couldn't find stuff on the trial. All I found were bits and pieces. Hey, Nadia. One day I am 25 enjoying happy hour in a crowded bar. The next I'm in my late 40s watching murder documentaries to relax. I know the feeling. I definitely know the feeling. That's pretty funny. Best looking guy in Patreon. That's right, Marty. You are the best looking guy in Patreon. Hope I have a bad. No, I'll have a good night. I'm alright. It's just been a crazy day. Another one. It's funny how these killer women try to look like a librarian nerd in the courtroom. It's scary. Okay. So, one of the things I want to discuss, first things first, because there was so much confusion about if she was born a man, if she was transgender, if what the deal was. Hey, happy, happy, happy. All right, so I did some research. It turns out she was born a female. She was not transgender. She was transfluid, is what they said. So she was definitely born a female. And that's why she's a girl today. She was never a guy. There was a lot of confusion thinking that she was transgender. She was born a man. She was not. She was born a female. She is a female. Nothing has ever changed. She'll always be a female. That's a given. That was the one confusion we had earlier. So if you weren't on my live on my other channel earlier on Purplexed Network, I started this story because I found I get there, Leo. I found this really interesting, and I was like, you know what? Let's see what this case is about, because it's saying it's high profile, and I'm like, I haven't heard of it. A lot of people I know haven't heard of it. And the only coverage I can find was Black Dahlia's coverage of it, and she'll give me a strike instantly. So, but she has the actual trial, but she's the only place I can find the actual trial. So the whole thing is very weird. But I did do, hey Ben, but I did do some good research and found some stuff, some clips, not too many. But one of the things that she's been compared to, are we working on another whodunit? No, we know whodunit. The question is, why whodunit? So, the interesting thing about this case, they keep comparing it to Jodi Arias. I don't really see the similarities other than they both killed a boyfriend. But the one with this one that makes it odd is that she had 3 boyfriends all at the same time. Why kill one of them and not the other 2? And she did it in such a way that was so weird. Hang on a second. What? You know what? I had stuff and I lost it. Hold on. So a lot of people don't know this case. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you a little background. I'm going to play a video, but then I have stuff that's not public. I mean, it's public, but some interesting twist and turn in the case that I found when I was doing some research. But for those of you that are not familiar with it at all, let me give you a little 2-minute clip of the opening statements, so at least you guys can get a general idea. 2004 called, they want their MySpace background. What? Okay, whatever. All right. I was gonna say something bad, but I'm not going to. All right, so a lot of people aren't familiar with it. Some weirdo put your last names in the chat and Diane, and no one deleted and everyone bashed me. I don't know how you do that. I just ignore it. But, you know, but nobody in Diane's ever talks about me, but she's such a loser. All right. So, hang on. What? So for those of you not familiar with the case, this will give you a bit of a background on it. All right.
The court today marked day 2 of the trial for Ezra McCandless, the 22-year-old Stanley woman accused of fatally stabbing Alexander Woodworth last year. Our own McKella Alexander was in the courtroom today to hear opening statements. McKenna?
Hey, Jermaine. The prosecution and defense spent several hours today presenting arguments, initial evidence, and previewing who will be testifying throughout the trial. A recap of the case at hand. McCandless is accused of stabbing Woodworth 16 times on March 23rd of 2018. His body was found days later in a car in Springbrook. McCandless is pleading not guilty to the charge of first-degree intentional homicide. The prosecution's opening statement consisted of the gruesome details, including locations of the stabbings that include in the back of the head, groin area, and 3 times across the neck. A big emphasis of the statement was of McCandless changing her story to investigators.
So she wouldn't forget, because she felt bad and so she wouldn't forget. But moments later, when she walks to Don Zippel's house, she forgets. She forgets everything that happened.
McCandless originally said Woodworth had carved the word boy into her arm with a knife, but later confessed to investigators that it had been her own doing. Another focus, the lack of Woodworth's DNA on McCandless. As the DA noted, it was only found on scratches near her pelvic area. The defense refuted the prosecution's statements, saying the entire event was an act of self-defense, stirred by previous trauma, from previous relationships including Woodworth, and a reason to fear Woodworth.
Question that you're going to have in your mind, not whether she believes.
That's exactly right, Nadi.
Whether her beliefs.
The defense also included evidence of Woodworth's journal entries, which they say was aggressive in nature. First testimony was heard today, including statements from the victim's mother and grandmother and the medical examiner. The defense says they'll be calling in multiple medical experts to testify on behalf of McCandless's mental diagnoses of PTSD and the effects trauma has on the brain.
All right, thanks, McKenna. That trial continues tomorrow and is expected to last several weeks.
Okay, now, she had originally stated that she was going non-guilty, and with that non-guilty plea, it was going to be not guilty by reason of mental insanity or something. She then changed it, and now she is pleading not guilty, just not guilty. So that's one half. And hold on. Before I get into my own personal stuff. Okay, this is a little longer, but it really like explains motive according to what they have so far. The newscaster is the girl that takes it up the butt. If you're not familiar with that, it's an old joke with a Court TV reporter. So I'll explain it later, but we always joke around that she takes it up the butt. So hold on one moment.
The first question most members of the public have is, well, why did
Marty,
she do it? Why did they do it? It's a natural reaction. It's an obvious question. And for people hearing about something like a murder, it's something that they want to understand. They want to figure out, okay, this person did it. You're saying they did it, but why would they do it? And it's no different when you're trying a case inside a courtroom as a prosecutor. You know, you are accusing someone of murder. And the 12 jurors who are going to decide what happened in the case also will not vocally say it, but they're thinking to themselves, okay, this person did it. Well, why did they do it? Why would they commit murder? Why would they take someone else's life? It's an important question.
No, Marty, really, I look
But
like
believe
hell.
it or not, I've said this before, prosecutors don't have to prove it. They don't
Who
have to say
thinks
anything
he's hot?
about it. Because the only thing prosecutors have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt are the elements of the crime.
Who thinks he's hot?
And in this case, the crime being murder, you have to prove the elements of murder. You don't have to prove motive. But prosecutors know you can't get into a courtroom and try to sell a story.
You think
to
so,
12
Lily? I think he is
ordinary
hot.
folks, members of the public.
You guys
and
don't
not
think Vinny's
attempt
hot?
to answer that question. As a
All
matter
right,
of fact,
Julie, you and I
many
think
times
alike.
It's some of the most powerful evidence when you get into the motive of why. So let's take this case now.
Capone, I think
We're
Nadia
talking
does
about a woman.
too.
You look at her, she's an artist, right? She doesn't look like your classic murderer, your classic killer. I mean, if you were drawing up a picture of what a killer looks like, it wouldn't be this defendant. But as we've learned through the years, killers come in all shapes and sizes.
There
But
you go,
again,
Lynn.
For many of us looking at this case and understanding, okay, there's something going on here. There's some sort of a love triangle or rectangle.
There you go, Positive
going on, and
Panther.
there's all these different people and relationships. But ultimately, why would someone commit a murder like this? I mean, talking about a
He
rape,
does,
16
Cuban. I
stab
agree.
wounds.
See,
And
Nadia,
these aren't
we
like
agree.
just minor scratches. These are real wounds. So today, it's opening statement. Prosecutors laying out for the jury their theory, their understanding, their reasoning, and answering that question for the jury.
Layla,
Why
Lily.
would Ezra McCandless
I agree,
do this?
Jackie.
It's my biggest moment of the day.
This case is about an extreme anger and a twisted form of love. A love so dangerous that the defendant killed Alexander Woodworth in an attempt to recapture the relationship she wanted with Jason Mingle. This is not a case of whodunit. The person who done it, the person who brutally killed Alex by stabbing him over and over again, is sitting before you today. The defendant,
She's
Ezra
22.
McCandless. The defendant that acted on March 22nd, 2018, is not the meek, mild, fearful girl
She's not trans.
that you may want to see.
She was born a girl.
Throughout this trial, you will see who the real defendant was. So who was Alex, and how did Alex and the defendant meet? Alex wasn't your typical 24-year-old. He had a Bachelor of Science degree from UW-Eau Claire with a major in philosophy and a minor in biology. At the time of his death, he was applying to graduate schools to fulfill his lifelong dream of obtaining his PhD and becoming a professor in philosophy. In many ways, reading philosophy and writing about philosophy was a big part of Alex's life.
Hey, Carla.
Alex spent hours upon hours reading books, reading different philosophy books, and writing about those interpretations in his journals. In fact, those journals will be used in this trial in an attempt to show that the defendant was afraid of Alex. However, when you don't take bits and pieces out of context, when you read the whole journals, you will realize that these are philosophical musings of a young man who wanted to be a philosophy professor. And in fact, the evidence will show that it was the defendant who sought out Alex on the date of his death. Not once, but twice that day. Alex spent most of his days at Racy's coffee shop in Eau Claire. Some would say it's the place he felt most at home, where he felt safe. He was going to Racy's through college.
There you go,
He'd sit there
John.
all day, reading books.
Yeah, she had
drinking
3
coffee,
boyfriends.
writing in his journals.
I'm going to get to all that extreme, Mom.
Most of his friends were from the Racy's crowd, and he also worked at Racy's coffee shop. Unfortunately for Alex, That's also the same place where he met the person who would later take his life. The defendant and Alex met in October of 2017 and shortly thereafter began dating. Also, unfortunately for Alex, the defendant was involved in a complex series of other relationships. At the time, she was involved in a relationship with Jason Mingle, and later she was also involved in an intimate relationship with John Hanson.
All right, so it's a web of relationships, and we're going to try to break it down for you a little bit later, but we've got to understand this why of it. To follow this story, the jury has to understand it, and I want to get a clearer picture.
And you guys have to understand it.
Correspondent Chanley Painter, who is outside the courthouse right now, was inside the courtroom for all of this today. Chanley, let's just break down this motive, this theory of motive that the prosecution has.
That's the girl that takes it up the butt.
Jealousy, and that's usually what you see when there's multiple lovers involved here. What exactly was it? Explain this to me.
You think he thinks about giving it to her up the butt?
Well, the prosecutor in her very first sentence said it was a dangerous love, a way to get back or recapture her ex-boyfriend.
I know, I just hate her mouth.
Who, according to the state, had broken it off. So it's a long timeline of an acrimonious history of this love square.
Oh, this is brand new,
Jermaine. Up to this, and at that point, she was journaling the night before how she had lost her voice. And the prosecutor went on to say that morning when she went to Racy's coffee shop,
no, this is brand new. This is brand new case.
And it worried him. And so
today was the third day of trial.
As a motive leading up to why she would want to murder Alex Woodworth. This is the culmination of these past several months. In fact, they use this term in the court documents saying this was her way to move forward, to get rid of all the bad memories over the last months of her life.
Okay, so she
That's
wants
what
to
I'm
get
saying,
back with
Jermaine.
Jason Mengel. That's the
it
guy
just looks
that
weird.
She wants to be with. Alex Woodworth is someone she started a relationship with after Jason, but so the prosecutors are arguing that she wanted to kill
Jackie,
Alex
she's brand
Woodworth
new.
to erase him. And
she's
was
probably
this
like
to prove
23.
Her love to Jason? Was Jason supposed to find out about it? I mean, anyway, you're explaining this. I'm
yeah,
sorry,
right.
it's starting to sound a little bit like almost an insanity defense rather than a prosecution to me.
I think she does face yoga, maybe.
This is what the state's theory is. Her guilt of cheating on, quote, the love of her life. The prosecutor used that term. This was the love. Jason Mingle was the love of her life. This was her way of coping and dealing with all of this negative things happening to her, mostly at her own choices over the last several months of her life. And this jury is going to have to take it in, and the state hopes that they will agree based on the evidence that this was her way of how she coped with it. She intended
she has Pantene hair
and plotted and lured Alex Woodworth to his death so that she could erase bad memories and move on with her life.
Okay, all right, I understand what they're trying to say. I just don't. It's not the cleanest of motives that we've heard through the years. You know, usually in these tangled relationships, one person is jealous of another. Someone doesn't want someone to say something about a relationship. But here, it's a little bit different. Okay, we'll take that for what it's worth at face value. Let's try to understand another important fact in this case. We're going to show the viewers now. There's a carving after whatever happened.
Yeah, this is crazy.
That night, this is the defendant's arm that has the word boy carved on it. What's the story behind that? And what are the two...
All right, that I'll explain too. So when she had cut her... after she killed him... Hey, Val. After she killed him, she took a knife and she carved boy in her arm. She originally said that he did that to her. He's the one that carved it in her because he kept calling her boy, boy, boy. But what we later find out is that it's brand new, Jackie. Today's only the third day of trial. What we learn is that he wouldn't even tell, and I'm going to play this later, he didn't even tell his friends that he was dating a girl. He just said that he gave his friends the impression that he was dating a boy. She was not a boy, Blink. She was born a female. That's why I keep trying to tell you. She was born a female. I looked it up. I got confirmation of this. She was a girl. She was born a girl. She's still a girl.
Sides saying about this carving that is on the defendant, Ezra McCandless's arm, after Alex Woodworth is stabbed to death and killed?
Well, first, the prosecution uses it to show inconsistencies in her statements to police, because when she was first questioned about this carving, if you will, in her arm, she said that Alex was the one who did that during the assault and kept calling her boy. And then a couple of days later, when police returned and the medical staff and doctors at the hospital told police that this was likely self-inflicted superficial wounds in the direction that she would look down, in her viewpoint, that she came around and admitted that she's the one that actually carved this into her arm. She told police that this happened after the alleged attack, and it was a way for her, because she was going in and out of consciousness and memory, blacking out from the trauma, that she carved it into her arm so she would remember what happened. That's the story that she gave to the police, and of course the state wants to twist it one way, and the defense wants to stand by what she said.
This is another very strange fact in the case. It's bizarre, and again, you've got a motive to me that sounds like an insanity defense. You've got a bizarre carving on the arm of the defendant, and yet nowhere along the line here has this been a case that's about the mental status of this defendant?
Well, actually, when this case was first charged, she was charged by information. She entered a plea of not guilty by mental illness, insanity, and that was later changed. We don't know why. The court documents don't express a reason why her plea was changed to just not guilty, and now her theory of the defense is self-defense. But based on opening statements, especially the defense's opening statement, she was evaluated quite a bit by several doctors. He pointed out 2 separate doctors they were going to bring forward to talk about
Miss Perfect,
her
Ben.
issues since this happened, before and after, some of her personality disorders, as well as the tests they ran on her and her diagnosis for PTSD.
All right, inside the courtroom, who do we have? And I think I saw, was it the defendant's mother in court today?
Right, Capone?
The
That's a good
mother
one.
was in court today. Her father is in, or her adopted father is in court today. There's other family and friends sitting in that row and the row behind them. They all walk out together and separately from the friends and family of Alex Woodworth, who was escorted by, prosecutorial victims advocates. And he has quite a showing, 3 or 4 rows full of family and friends. Of course, the jury got to hear right away from his mother and his grandmother. The first witness is called by the state, and then they sit right there really close to the jury box during the trial. So they are there in support for him.
And is it clear yet the nature of the relationship between the victim, Alex Woodworth, and the defendant, Ezra McCandless? They had a relationship. Did they go out on dates? Would they go to the movies together? Did they go out to dinner? Did they hang out at the coffee shop? Was this a traditional dating relationship, or was there some sort of alternative type of relationship taking place between these two? Do we even know?
It was non-traditional, and this was brought up during some cross-examination by defense today, especially the last witness, the former manager of Racy's Coffee Shop, who was asked on cross-examination about Alex and what Alex allegedly said, what she told police. Alex said he was dating a boy, a trans male, and that was bragging about all the sex he was having. He was exhausted from all of that. So those issues were brought in and made clear with this witness. She didn't know that that boy was Ezra McCandless until later on. So this seemed to be a secret relationship. Plus, Ezra was publicly dating and living with Jason Mingle at the time that she started becoming intimate with Alex Woodworth. So it seemed to be a very private relationship, maybe an outward friendship when they were in public, but none of the intimate details were known to anybody.
Well, Alex is going around saying he's dating a boy.
That was what was brought up on cross-examination of the last witness today, the former manager of Racey's Coffee Shop. Now, her answers, even though the cross
But it wasn't. It was a girl.
Didn't tell police this, blah, blah, blah. She would say, I don't recall. So she was sort of denying that she said it. Well, she didn't recall that she said it on the stand. But the issues were brought in front of the jury, who took note of these things that at the time, Alex said he was dating a boy, a trans male.
No, Blink, she was a girl. She was not a boy. She was a girl. At no point was she ever a boy. She was always been a girl. And that's where the confusion came in. So while we look at the one that takes it up the butt, let me give you some information that I pulled from friends. Hold on. Now, hold on a second. Okay. Let me find, so I don't have to do this from my cell phone. Let me figure out where I got this from. I hate when you can't see because you're fucking blind as a bat. Hang on. Thank you, Kristen. Yeah, if anybody sends PayPal, you gotta let me know. I don't have it open. Everyone, Purple Heart Kristen. Thank you so much, Kristen. All right, they officially took $322.23 out of PayPal to pay for Kim's bracelet. So it's been signed, sealed, not delivered yet. Even though I paid for overnight shipping, it should be there tomorrow. Thank you, Kristen. All right. Oh, I didn't check see if you left a note. I'm sorry. I never forget notes. I always got to remember notes. All right. And I'll have to pull it up after. So for those of you that don't completely understand the background of this case, hang on. I wish I could find this on my cell because I have pictures and everything. Where's on the last page? Yeah. Let me try this. Bear with me a second, guys. It'll be so much easier to do from my computer than my cell phone. Oh, maybe this is it. Yes, I found it. All right. All right. So let's get into some facts here. In March, Ezra stabbed her boyfriend, Alexander Woodworth, to death in his truck in an old farm road. Afterwards, she walked to a neighboring farmhouse, bloody, shoeless, and absolutely hysterical. Police came. They tried to talk to her, but she wasn't making any sense. And they said that she had, like, blood on her glasses, like it was dry blood. It was very weird. Police came, tried to talk to her, but she wasn't making any sense, so they took her to the hospital. Hospital staff was able to discern her identity, but not the origin of her unusual wounds and markings. The word boy, which we just saw, was carved on her arm. Did you get the article on the Jefferson case? I did not, Puss in Boots. She had puncture wounds in her groin and her inner thigh. Her hands were scratched and bloody. She's saying, though, that he did this to her, like she was attacked or sexual assault. The hospital really did not even buy it. They're like, nah, don't think so. So before I get into what the local community is speculating, let me just state that everyone should remember that anyone can say anything. And it doesn't make it true. And we all know this from rumors. But thank you, Marty. Marty, I'm telling you, I look like death. But and you guys know I don't live anywhere near it or make, like any kind of money to actually go to Wisconsin and, do this publicly. So, but I did find that 3 of the 7 people on this case that claim to know Ezra have different stories of like who she was. And more than one person reported Ezra as gender identity issues. While she dated men, she also identified as a man. Her real name obviously is not Ezra. She changed it. Ezra claims sexual abuse as a child, that she was transgender. Even so, one mom whose son dated her told a reporter that upon breaking up with Ezra, her son went out of state to visit relatives. He awoke after the long drive to find Ezra parked in the relative's driveway asleep after having followed him a 150-mile trip. Others say that they only saw her dressed and acting very feminine, and that the idea that she is trans is absurd. So half the people that knew her say that she was that she was trans. The other half said that she wasn't. All right. And the reporter had seen her mugshot and her boy was carved into her arm. Neighbors say she's extremely artistic and has unusually superb talent in painting. Friends of Ezra and her victim, Alex, say that she was extremely intelligent and bordered on genius, which kind of makes sense of like why she's so whacked. So another local mom who had 2 sons that dated Ezra, so she was like a big hoe, reported that she tried to pit the brothers against each other, claiming to each that the other was abusive, like brothers don't talk or something. She said Ezra contradicts herself a lot. One moment she would claim her mother was abusive and domineering, and the next she would say that her mom was the best mother ever to birth a child. This local mom that spoke to the reporter says that she talked with Ezra plenty during the time that she dated her boys, and that she would change her personality and, the identifying gender to suit whoever she was trying to impress. So she really was like a sociopath, like for real. This is pure sociopath. So according to the local people, general consensus, Ezra's mom was an area dentist wife. She doesn't like to associate with her daughter at all. Her adoptive dad is the local bar stud. Her grandparents, parents of her adoptive dad, spent a lot of time with her early on. However, that doesn't seem to have helped shape her much. Some say that her mom tried to get her help at one point, but she refused, and it was then that her mom gave up. She seemed to be happy no matter what her circumstances. One family friend reported a 4-day camping trip with Ezra where she left the room she shared with her boyfriend at 1 a.m. to attempt to wake his sleeping brother in the next room. Yeah, local bar stud is what the reporter said. Now, as far as motives go, nobody has any idea why it was him. Those who claim to be close to her say that it could be that when her grandfather began to die, it set her off. He was a local cop who had been in trouble for sexual misconduct and harassment. This be the molestation link she talked about as a child. He died not long after she murdered Alex. Now, others say that they believe that she just snapped after longing to do something like this her whole life. So a lot of people are thinking that she definitely did this, like she wanted to do this. Afterwards, I'm going to show some of the pictures, and you guys will see it just doesn't make sense. Because in one picture, she looks like a boy. Like, absolutely looks like a boy. But I'm not sure who's who. So let me show you guys the pictures. Hold on. So that's her when she got arrested. And she kind of looks like a boy with long hair. That's her mugshot. Now you would think, okay, maybe she looks like a boy. That was her Twitter account, I guess, but it's private. Now, I'm not sure if that's supposed to be her or not. Because it just doesn't look like her. But these are the pictures that were in the report. So that's when I started thinking she's a guy. But she's not a guy. And here, same thing. Is that her? I don't know. And then there's her. But she was born a girl. She doesn't have a dick. She pretends to be a guy. That's what I'm thinking. But that's her as a girl. But I don't know where she puts all her hair. That's like no hair. So I'm like totally lost. So the general consensus what people are thinking is that she does this, not same person. I don't think so either, Poppy. Oh, that might be the victim. You know what? You might be right. Maybe that's what it is. That's definitely the victim. I just realized that. But this doesn't even look like the victim. But why would he say he's dating a girl? I mean, dating a guy? When it's clearly she's a female. I know I got that positive pan. I realized that after you said it. Bad call on my end. I was just looking for her. I wasn't even thinking about the victim. So that's the background of who she is, how this all came about, what happened. But let me go with something else. Hold on. There's a boy that's now a girl at my Starbucks, and I love her. So sweet. And that's okay, but that was like the underlying thing. Was she born a boy or a girl? That's one thing I could not figure out this morning. But no, she was born a girl. She is a girl. There's no question about it. All right, so this has to do with jury selection, but it really doesn't say much.
20 are still in the courtroom, but this pool of 28 are being asked
And the
general
sound is
questions. And
horrible.
I know you just mentioned the stab wound. When I just walked out of the courthouse, the defense was asking about self-defense, and they read the law of self-defense. And when...
Yeah, the sound is horrible. That's stuff that Black Dahlia picked up, and I'm surprised she even got it in a video. You know what? I just learned, so I just figured something out. I'm a fucking genius. I just learned who Black Dahlia really was. Right here, Sandra Rose. That's who Black Dahlia is. Because there's no reason for her to pick up this shitty-ass article. We just found out who Black Dahlia was. Right? Look at that. Amazing. It's someone that's tortured a lot of people in this community. Sandra Rose. That's Black Dahlia. Because in this article, this is Black Dahlia's picture. And like, why is my own video coming up on here? She tagged me. That's Black Dahlia's the one who does this page. It's Sandra Rose. One mystery solved. Right? And Nanny, who's the best? Who's the best? That's right. That's right. That mystery has now been completely solved. Now, is Sandra Rose a real name? I don't know. But Nanny knows who I mean. You're not the best. I'm the best. Val, long story. You have to go way back to the other side. I am. Galway girl in for the kill. I'm so excited. I just figured out who Black Dahlia was. Not Sandra Doris. Sandra Rose. Whoever Sandra Rose is. Because there's no other reason why this artist, this is her page. She must write. Why was my own video on here? My own video is only on here because she must put me in her tags. Because this is her video. She's a writer. Damn, I'm good. I know, right, Ninny? I have no idea who Sandra Rose is, but she's Black Dahlia. All right. Inspector Gadget wins. I don't think it was. I think this is Black Dahlia, to be honest with you. Now, could it be a different Black Dahlia? It could. No, not Black Dahlia Presents came after Black Dahlia. One mystery solved. Oh, you know what? I'm showing you guys. You guys can't see what I'm talking about. All right. If you see Sandra Rose up here, and then if you go down to the video, it's her video. Black Dahlia Presents. Bam, bitches. Bam. Who's fucking better than me? Look at this, Ninny. I got it. I fucking landed it. Damn, I'm good. Black Dahlia Presents, babes. Right there. Bam. How's that for a twist of fate? That's right. That's right, Inspector Keck on the move. That's right. Go, Gadget, go. But the Presents, I don't know, but Black Dahlia Presents right here. Well, it's on my video. I don't have to save it. It's permanently on a video. Cat, long story. How fucking cool is that? Could be. Her name's Sandra Rose. But this girl does a lot of writing. There's shitloads of writing. And she's been at this blog a long time. That's cool as fuck. I agree. It could be. I don't know where Harry would find the time for all this, but I don't think it's Harry. SandraRose.com is Black Dahlia Presents. Damn, I feel like it just sounded like the biggest mystery ever. It's SandraRose.com. She writes a lot. She covers a lot of shit. It is a murder case, but this is another mystery that's been solved. Solved. All right. All right, moving on. Oh, I feel like we just got somewhere. And there you can't find jack shit. Puss in Boots, where did you find information on this? Let me go to Court TV. All right.
From multiple devices, a VPN for online privacy, securing your connections, whether you're on public Wi-Fi or at home, and more.
You never know where cyber threats are lurking these days. Don't
Good old
wait to
Court
become a
TV.
victim. Here's how to join.
New Norton 360 with LifeLock. Call 1-800-431-2264.
Leave it to
Or
Court
visit
TV to have commercials.
LifeLock.com/mypromo.
I'm
Use
Vincent
promo code
McGoth. Where's
MyPromo
my
to save
ear?
25% off your first year and get a free shredder with
I
annual
did
membership.
vaping.
Call now.
Before the state rested in the Hammer Hitman murder trial, the
See,
key
that's-
witness for the prosecution, Charles Wright.
They're showing the Jimmy Rogers case on her coverage.
These are part of what was previously marked as exhibit number 174, the CD. These are all photos from the hospital and not 174B.
Hey, Mark.
Some of these photographs are in 174B and some of them aren't, but they're similar. So the picture I'm showing you is marked here as exhibit number 635. And that is a picture of the side of Miss McCandless's, the right side of her neck, correct?
Yes.
And that picture that we're seeing up there, that red mark that you see, that's the red mark you're talking about when you said it was below the mandibular, or in other words, the jawline, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And that's not a thin line, it's much thicker, correct?
Correct.
Now, you've had a number of different patients who've come in at
I don't know
different
how
times.
to get rid of this X.
Sexual assault patients you've examined who have advised you that an assailant attempted to strangle them, or they frequently use the word choke.
No,
even though
that's
not
Jodi
really
Arias.
Technically correct, right?
Correct.
I mean, choking is something that happens on the inside of your throat. But many times when that happens, when a patient reports that, there's no mark necessarily left. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. But in this case, we have a pretty clear, distinct red mark, right?
Yes.
And that's why you took a picture of it.
Yes.
All right. So even though the patient can't tell you something that happens, that's an important piece of evidence, isn't it?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to next move on to what's been marked as exhibit number 636. And Judge, this is also from exhibit 174, the CD. And this is the picture you previously talked about that shows her holding up her name, and that's for identification purposes, right?
Yes.
Just kind of like hospital bracelets are for identification purposes. And looking at this picture, if you look at her lip on what appears to be our left, but would be her right side, you can see a small cut or laceration to the end of her lip on the right side, correct?
Yes.
And there appears to be another laceration to the right of that, which would be to her left, also like what you might call a superficial laceration, correct?
Are you talking on the lip?
Yes,
Right.
on the lip. It does, yes. Okay. There's also a
No
small
fighting,
area
Kristen.
which is kind of dark colored. I don't know how to use this.
Julie, I've had words with
Here.
both of them.
I'm terrible at these things. I'm going to ask Mr. Nelson to help me. There's a little mark right there that looks like a small scab as well, correct? Yes. And you can also, on the bottom side of her chin, very close to the paper, it's a little hard to see, but you can see a red line there as well, correct? Yes. All right. So fair to say that,
I can't get rid of the X.
these could have been bleeding earlier and been cleaned up by the time you actually saw Miss McCandless. Yes. Okay. I'm next going to show you what's been marked as exhibit number 637. This is a close-up of what you previously described as the marks to her leg. And this is particularly to her right leg, correct? Yes. And there's an area that you described as dried blood. Yes. Was it dried by the time you saw it? Yes, it was. Okay, so if these were noted by somebody as puncture wounds, that would be consistent with puncture wounds, correct? These are part of what was previously marked as exhibit number 174, the CD. These are all photos from the hospital, and not 174B, right? Yeah. Yeah. Or if
I do see that. It looks like it could be blood, but I'm not sure. I didn't chart.
okay, because that wouldn't necessarily be something you would chart, right?
If I saw it and it was pretty obvious.
I mean, okay, so it's. And looking at the palms of her hands, you specifically noted the lacerations, which were to her left hand. Yes. It's fair to say that both of the hands show quite a bit of.
What I think is funny, though, people that try to get away with murder, okay, you stab a guy 15 times and you have these small little cuts on your arm. Hello? That's my issue with Darlie Rotier, is that her boys are stabbed to death, almost decapitated, but knifed to the floor, and yet she's got these small wounds. It just doesn't make sense. But that looks like because she stabbed somebody 16 times.
Redness as well?
Yes.
And those are consistent with perhaps falling on a hard surface like a road or gravel?
Yes, it could be, but I don't.
You don't know?
No, exactly.
Okay.
I don't know.
But you notice there's definite redness there?
Correct.
Oh, she stabbed somebody 16 times.
Now, you were not shown pictures of Miss McCandless's clothing, right?
I was not.
You never saw it got there. It was marked in bags.
Yes.
So if the clothing corresponded to certain injuries that might cause you to look for other things, you were.
No, that's a medical
examiner. Have an
examiner.
opportunity to see those things, right?
Yes, I did not see the clothes.
Okay, picture 619, please. I'm showing you what's been marked as exhibit number 619, which has previously been introduced in evidence. This is a gold sweater, and you can see that it's cut all the way through on the front of the sweater.
Yes, I see that.
Okay, but you never saw that before your examination.
No.
And I'm going to show you what has been marked as picture number 6, exhibit number.
Now, also, before I go on, let me tell you one of the theories that I read. One of the theories I can't confirm or deny. Again, I just found this case a few hours ago. And I had to take my daughter somewhere, so it's really as new to me as it is to you guys. But one of the things that I found was that some people believe that she didn't do it, that one of her boyfriends jumped him from behind and they both killed him, which is an interesting theory. And a lot of locals are kind of saying the same thing, is that he could have jumped from behind and killed him, and she's taken the fall for it. I mean, she did have 3 boyfriends. It's definitely a possible theory.
640. And this is I guess, a blue and white button-up shirt. Is it fair to say that? Blue or grayish? It's a little hard to see the color.
Yes.
And you can see that shirt on this photograph has been cut in the center area.
Yes.
of the shirt, right? And there appears to be what could be, and I'm not saying you should say it should be, but like mud or blood on the shirt.
Yes.
And you never saw that either?
I did not see that.
And now I'm going to show you what's been marked as exhibit number 639. And fair to say that's a t-shirt?
Yes.
And that was also an item of clothing you had not been shown?
Yes, I had not been shown that.
And on that item of clothing on the t-shirt, under the tiger, there's a kind of a reddish mark, which could be
No,
blood
not that we
you don't
know of, Layla.
Right?
Right.
Lily.
I don't know that.
Also see the little area that's circled?
Oh, yep, I see that.
Okay, and if it's gonna help you, I'm gonna just show you the actual picture. In the area that's circled, actually it's much easier to see here than where I was. The area that's circled, aware of that either?
No, I was not.
So finally, I'm gonna show you what has been marked as exhibit number 641. And this is a picture of Miss McCandless's abdomen. Do you see a small scratch on her abdomen?
Yes, I do.
And that appears to be in the same position, or it's close by where the defect was to the fabric on the previous picture of the t-shirt, right?
Yeah, that could be.
Okay. And you did not note that in your report? Small. There had been a cut to the t-shirt. You might have known, even though...
Overruled.
A little harder, but I know I visualize, with her consent and with being appropriate, the whole body. We're constantly looking for injuries.
Sure, and that can be easily, it's not a laceration like the other things. It hasn't necessarily that you didn't note the small scratch to the abdomen.
Yes, I did not note that.
Okay. About what occurred, you've already recited that she
Hey, Dastus.
said she was sitting in her car with Alex. She didn't remember, right?
Yes.
She didn't know if she'd been sexually assaulted, but she was guessing as to whether or not she had been.
I don't recall her ever guessing. She just didn't give me much information, and I tried to get more information, but
she looks so innocent.
In your report, you noted that when asked if sexually assaulted, she said both, I don't know, and also, I guess I was raped at hers.
yes,
So that was guesswork on her part.
exactly. Yeah.
And she couldn't give you any description, but she said she'd been with Alex the last she remembered. Before that, she'd been with Jason, right?
Correct.
And she said she had been at Owen Park with Jason, and then he left and she was hanging out with Alex. She told you that?
Yes.
But she didn't give you specific.
See, right there might be why people are saying, like locals are saying, that it was Jason that did it, because she had just left Jason and then went with him. And it's very possible that Jason is involved, but nobody's really talked about it yet except locals.
Specific details about whether she was in fact at Owen Park with Alex or not. That wasn't something she said. She just said she'd been there with Jason, and then later she was with Alex.
Yes.
So her inability, and of course she could not recall how she got to a farmer's house covered in mud.
Yes.
Right. Now, you have specific questions you ask when a patient comes in for a SANE exam that are done in an effort to help the person recall, right?
Yes.
And I think you said when the person doesn't recall, their job is to follow up. Your job, I'm sorry, not their job. Your job is to follow up.
Yes.
And this is something you've been specifically trained on, correct?
Yes.
Well,
I see that
Bonnie,
you've gone to a number of different.
Bonnie, that's the theory that locals are saying, that how does a guy not overpower a woman that you have, that, stabs you 16 times? And it seems that he didn't die right away, like he was fighting back or something.
Trainings to become a SANE nurse, and it's because the training has to be specialized as compared to other particular jobs that an RN may do in a hospital setting.
Correct.
And one of the things that you have learned is that it's not uncommon for sexual assault victims to not recall what's happened.
Correct, yes.
And it's very common for them not to remember the order in which things have happened.
Yes, it
And it's very common for them to not recall, but later be able to reconstruct their memory a couple of days later.
Right.
And that is not an unusual.
And let me also say something else. The people from Making a Murder are going to remember this. And for those of you that are new, Wisconsin, I'm going to try to remember this exactly as I should. But I explained this for Making a Murderer. This case has taken place in Wisconsin. Wisconsin has what's called a Denny motion. Now, I don't know if this case, because I didn't watch it from the beginning and I can't find opening day, if there's a Denny motion in place, what a Denny motion will stop is you can't just say that somebody else might be a victim. You have to have there's three different parts of, not a victim, a defendant. You have to have, it has to meet three different standards. One of them is motive, and I forgot the other two. I'll look it up while the rest of this is playing. But I have a feeling that because it's Wisconsin, there's probably a Denny motion in place, and which means that they can't just automatically, no, not Denny, that they can't automatically just assume, name somebody else. You have to have these three parts of the Denny motion in order to name somebody else.
Usual response to trauma.
Correct, it's not.
And you would agree with me that different people handle trauma differently.
Yes.
Right? It all just depends on who the person and the patient is.
Yes.
And you give them the same care and consideration regardless of whether they can recall or not recall what specifically happened.
Yes.
You're going to give them the exact same treatment, the exact same examination, because people do recall things later, right?
Yes.
And just because somebody doesn't recall something doesn't mean they're not a victim of an attack.
Correct.
Now, when you examined Ms. McCandless, Dr. Tillotson was in the room at the outset of the examination?
Yes, he was in when I did the vaginal area and the peri area, because some of the doctors want to be in there to make sure there's no trauma, bleeding, and he is one that always wants to be in there when we're doing the actual pelvic speculum exam.
All right. Let me find this. Okay. So a Denny motion mandates that the defense in any trial cannot suggest another suspect for the crime the defendant is accused of without being able to support that accusation with a possible motive from the new suspect, a proven opportunity for the suspect to commit that crime, and the ability to place them. So let me put that in layman's terms, is that you have to, in order to name somebody else, it was actually named after a guy named Denny, and I can explain the case if you want. But it was very, very prominent in Making a Murder. It was like one of the biggest things in Making a Murder was this Denny law. It means that you have to have a motive, you have to have a proven opportunity, and you have to be able to place that person at the crime scene. So if you can do all that, you can name another suspect. This is huge in Wisconsin. Huge. And it was one of the biggest things when it came to Making a Murderer. No, it was State versus Denny, and it was a big case back in 1984. And it really paved the way. And in most murder trials in Wisconsin, they use the Denny motion. Because I personally, I think most states should use it. Because what it does is it stops it from you being able to say, hey, I think Ninny killed him. Well, was Ninny even in Wisconsin? When Ninny was in Wisconsin, what's Ninny's motive for doing it? And they could say, I don't know, she didn't really have a motive. If she didn't have a motive, you can't blame her. Hey, what's up, JM? And that's the the weird thing about a Denny motion. It works for the most part. An any motion, yeah. It works for the most part, but it does stop frivolous accusations. And think about it. If every single person said, you know, that it's on trial and says, well, I think he did it, I think she did it, then you're constantly putting people on trial. So even though a lot of people hated it for making a murderer, it really makes a lot of good points. And a lot of people think, like, from making a murderer, a lot of people think, oh, well, that's what stopped Stephen and Brendan from winning, but it didn't. Denny motions are pretty smart. So that's what I'm saying. I didn't watch the beginning of the trial. I haven't been able to find the very beginning in full, but that it will stop a Denny motion. If there's a Denny motion in place, that's why they can't. And I agree with you, Poppy. It definitely should be standard. So, you know, would her live-in boyfriend fit under most of them? Probably. Actually, he would fit under all of them, but, you know, maybe he's not even an option. I don't know. And yeah, because whenever you see Denny, it's all about making a murderer. And okay. So the Denny was actually from 1984. It was decided September 19th of 84. And it was for Kent Denny. He was convicted of a first-degree murder following a jury trial in which his brother was a co-defendant. Denny raises 3 issues on appeal. First, he argues that he and his brother should have been tried separately. Second, Denny complains that he was denied his constitutional right to present a defense when the trial court refused to allow evidence, suggesting that any one of a number of third parties had motive and opportunity to murder Christopher Moore, and that he was also denied the opportunity to produce evidence showing that he has a tendency to fabricate stories. Third, Denny asserts that the trial court erred in refusing to allow defense counsel to review police investigation reports he claims would have supported his theory that others could have killed the victim. We are unpersuaded by any of Denny's arguments and affirm, but that's how the Denny motion came into play. What's up, Edna? That's how the Denny motion came into play. And it's pretty interesting. So that's really all I have on this case so far. We have Little Gray's group. Hey now. I got a better group than Gray. I'm nicer to people than Gray. And I'm just playing. I love Gray. So, and I'm going to win my bet against Gray. So, that's like pretty much what I have on this case today. What I also want to show you guys, though, is the other case, the Teresa Sievers case. So, the girlfriend, the one that told on Jimmy Rogers to begin with, if you're not familiar with the case, I have a video on it. There is the girlfriend that turned state's witness. You got to see her testify. I mean, it's like an hour and a half long. I'm not going to play the whole thing. But the first like 15 minutes, I have never seen a defendant or a witness so scared to be on trial. Like, she won't even look at him. It's the oddest thing you've ever seen. It's freaky. It's like, wow, this chick won't even look at him. Now, it's a death penalty case, and it's just weird. And I'm really surprised that she won't even look at him.
These are part of what was previously.
That's the same case. Oh. Hold on, I gotta find it. Okay. I heard it. Hold on.
Did you tell Mr. Wright?
Okay. Gray's getting more mad. Gray's a good guy. Hey, Amy. But he won't put up with much. No, he doesn't. All right, so check this out. Watch this girl. For anyone that watches trials, watch this girl's face. I don't think I've ever seen somebody so freaked out in a courtroom than her. And it's an hour and 22 minutes. I'm not going to put the whole thing. You guys just got to see the beginning. It's crazy.
Did you tell Mr. Wright? Did
This, I think, is the second half, maybe. But look how nervous she is. And I'm not even sure this is the beginning because it says part 2. But she is like visibly shaking. Ah, thanks, Kristen. I'm not turning down the sound. They're in a sidebar. This is Jimmy Rogers, Doctor to Receivers. I have a short clip on video on this on my on this page.
Mr. Rogers have a nickname?
Yes.
And what was that nickname?
Jimmy the Hammer.
Now, were Wayne Wright and Mr. Rogers friends?
Yes.
What types of things would they do together?
Drink beer.
I don't know why they're not
barbecue.
showing her.
At the DeSoto Walters Park.
And was that at the
Wedding.
Move to introduce State's Exhibit 74F.
Amelia, that was funny.
And are you in this picture?
Yes.
I'm going to hold the picture up like this for the jury. Can you point to where you are in the photograph? What are you wearing?
My black polka dot dress.
And who is standing beside you with the white shirt?
Jimmy.
Permission to publish, Your Honor?
You may.
Yeah, this is the second half. You got to see the opening. It's crazy. She's pretty calm now.
Out. 174C. Blue.
See how scared she is?
Am I supposed to answer?
No, you just sit there. You're fine.
You know, you gotta see part 1. Hang on. You guys gotta see part 1. She's beyond terrified, Stacy. Hold on. Maybe this is it.
In discovery. 5 in the time.
Yeah, this is it.
Defense. Okay, bring him out. Please be seated. I'll ask our jurors.
We tend to rely upon certification. The state calls Taylor Showmaker.
Watch this. This is insane. I've never seen a witness like this.
For the record, if I didn't do this, say that already.
See, up until this is the part I want to see, but the trial's been boring as hell. Hey, Kim.
See, Your Honor.
Yes, ma'am.
You're welcome, Kristen. But yeah, this trial's been boring as hell. Like, I can't get into boring trials. I think the state was afraid she didn't show up or something.
confirmed, but the testimony you're
This
about
is
to
the
hear
Teresa, Jimmy Rogers trial.
Thank you.
The husband of the victim goes next, but they're both death penalty cases.
Do you need some water, ma'am?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Look at her.
Here. You're welcome. Steve.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Showmaker, I want you to state your name for the record, please, okay?
Taylor Morgan Showmaker.
And would you spell your last name, please?
SHOMAKER.
And do you have any children?
Yes.
And how old is your oldest?
6.
And how old is your youngest?
2.
And I'm going to ask you to try
Ziggy,
and
it's two
remember a
different
time
trials.
That's a little over 4 years ago, in July of 2015, and then
I don't
maybe
think they're
August
his
of
kids, though.
2015. So I just want you to take a deep breath, right? At that time, were you living with Jimmy Ray Rogers?
Yes.
And did you also know a Curtis Wainwright, or Wainwright as you might
Does she,
call
Nadia?
him?
Yes.
And did there come a time, the very end of July, when Mr. Rogers went to Florida?
Yes.
And who picked him up to go to Florida?
Curtis.
And did he come back a few days later?
Yes.
And had you gone over
Katia,
to
that's
your
funny.
mom's while he was gone to stay with her? With
Oh,
the
they
kids
are
in there?
his kids?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know they were his kids.
Overruled.
And did he come and pick you up from your staying with your mom's when he came back?
Yes.
Do you remember what he was wearing when he came back? What kind of shirt he was wearing?
Budweiser t-shirt.
Was that a shirt that he had had before he went to Florida?
No.
And after he
Isn't
picked
that
you
crazy?
up, did you go back to where the two of you lived?
Yes.
And when you went back, had he brought anything back with him?
I saw Curtis
Yes.
Wright. I did watch that.
Now, when you walked into your house in the kitchen, did you see what he had brought back?
Yeah. Yes.
Let me just show you what's already in evidence. If I may approach the witness, Your Honor.
But he was like so mellow.
Which exhibits you're using.
I am going to. I was trying to pull it. I'm going to use 35C.
I know, Nadia. It's crazy.
Show you what's in evidence is 35C.
Now, did they ever explain, Nadia, did they explain if his name was Jimmy the Hammer before the killing or after the killing? She is afraid for her life, but I didn't realize they were his kids. He beat her to death with a hammer, correct. And for those of you who's not familiar with the case, I have like a 7-minute video on this channel that you can watch that introduces this case. Oh, he was called Jimmy the Hammer before. Okay. Who has someone on the wedding day to kill their wife? I've seen it happen.
Is this your residence? Is this where you lived?
Yes.
Who is she so scared? Because she's turned on her husband.
Yes.
On her
And
boyfriend,
can you
whatever.
just point right now to where the kitchen area is on this photo? And was that the area where you saw the items when you came back into the house?
Yes.
I mean, she is visibly shook.
Was there, or did you see a white cooler or a black backpack on in the kitchen when you came back?
Yes.
It's intense, right?
I'll sustain the objection on that one. The previous questions, though, don't beg an answer. It's a yes or no question, which doesn't make it leading.
I want to show you what's been introduced into evidence in State's Exhibit number 40
He's too dorky to be in a mob.
and State's Exhibit 52. Starting with State's Exhibit number 40.
I know she's starting to freak out. His nickname was before. Yeah, someone else said that.
State's Exhibit number 40. Do you recognize it?
Yeah, that was my ex's.
Was that Mr. Rogers?
At the time, yeah.
All right, he was a union boy.
And you talked about there was a cooler on the counter when you came in. Was this the cooler?
Yes.
Isn't that insane? This poor girl.
With the court's permission, the state would like to open State's Exhibit number 52.
You may.
Nadia, I learned why. Because he has an option that he can go up if he chooses because it's a death penalty case. In death penalty cases, they're allowed to do that because their life hangs on the line. So if they want to go up, they can. Yeah, you're right, Audra. He thought she would never talk.
Did you look in the white cooler at some point while it was sitting in the kitchen? Did you look inside it?
Not that I remember.
Bye, Mojo. Have fun.
And was there anything in the backpack that was in the kitchen?
Because I'm covering both cases, Ziggy.
Yes.
What was in the backpack?
I don't remember right now.
For money, Naughty. It was all about money.
Do you, give me just a moment, Your Honor.
They may get him. Give him the. It's a death penalty case. Him and the husband. She looks like a mean bitch.
I believe it was his clothes.
Did you give a did you end up talking to police and giving them a statement back in August of 2015, August 25th?
Yes.
And if I were to show you a page from the statement you gave, might it refresh your recollection?
And just in case you're not familiar with, and I kind of skipped over it, either his sister or his mom, what was in the bag that she was showing about clothes was the, when he first got busted, she was in questioning, and when she was in questioning, she had taken the police, and this is all in the video I did, she had taken police to to the site where he made her throw out these clothes, and she took the police, and it matched up with the clothes he was wearing. That's what the clothes she pulled out of the bag.
Election as to what might have been contained in the backpack?
Yes.
Do you think it might also refresh your recollection as to whether there was anything in the cooler?
Yes.
I approach the witness, Your Honor.
Page.
It's page 5307, discovery of page 11 of the statement.
Okay.
You can look at it and take your time. Just read it to yourself, okay?
You tell me you don't feel bad for this girl.
Did he also bring any presents back?
Yeah.
I want to show you what's been introduced into evidence as State's Exhibit number 50 and ask if you recognize it. Do you recognize it?
Yes.
And what was that?
It was a gift he brought back for me.
You don't feel bad for her? You mean?
The day he came back, was that a special day for you and for him?
Yes.
And did you have special information to share with him?
Yes.
What was that information?
That I was pregnant.
And did you tell him that on that day?
Yes.
Now, I want to move forward a little bit. I want to move forward to maybe
No, she had nothing to do with the
2 or
murder.
3 weeks later, in July, when 2 detectives down in Lubbock, come by where you lived, came by where you lived, and knocked on your door. The other thing, that's you okay?
She sang like a
And
bird.
knocked on your door. Do you remember that day?
Yes.
And when they knocked, was Mr. Rogers at home at that time, or did he come later?
He came later.
Oh, no shit, Nadia?
And when, were they there very long? The officers?
I'm sorry, can you start over?
I'm sorry. That day in July, 2 or 3 weeks later, when detectives down in Levitt came knocking on your door, and Mr. Rogers wasn't there initially, did Mr. Rogers arrive while detectives down and Detective Levitt were still there?
Wait, Nadia, something doesn't make sense. She has a 4-year-old? Oh, okay, because it said that she has a 4-year-old is her oldest and a 2-year-old is her youngest. This happened 4 years ago. And she's got a wedding ring on. So she's married to somebody else now. And she has kids with somebody else. Yeah, right, so I made him drive her to the funeral.
Yes.
And did he speak with them?
Yes.
Now, after the detectives left,
Yeah, her oldest 6
tell
is
me
her
what
youngest
happened
is 4.
and what
This
Mr.
happened
Rogers
4
said
years.
to you?
2. This happened 4 years ago.
He said that we needed to take a ride.
And did he do anything before you got in the car to take a ride?
He took the detective's card off of the counter and did something with it.
And did you know where you were going to be taking a ride when he said that?
No.
Where did you end up going?
First we went down to his work in Doe Run.
And what did you all do in Doe Run?
I sat in the car and he went in and got his phone and put under a water fountain and then crushed it and then got back in the car.
And did he have the pieces of the phone with him when he got back in the car?
Yes.
And then where did you all go?
That was the burner
headed
phone they
back towards
used.
home.
And while you...
This is the Jimmy Rogers death penalty trial in the death of Teresa Sievers. This is his former girlfriend and mother of I don't know how many kids, but not all of them. Yeah, she's in her mid-20s or late 20s.
You were heading back. Did Mr. Rogers either request you to do something or do anything with the parts of the phone?
Yes.
And what was that?
To throw him out the window.
And were the phone pieces thrown out the window?
Hey,
Yes.
Aki Mom.
Did you all end up taking another car trip later, maybe going to your mother's or another that day or a couple days later, where you took what was in the black backpack?
That was the same day.
And that day, what did you do with what was in the black backpack?
He had told me to throw it out the window into the river on 47, but I was like in shock and my response delayed, and I threw it out a little after the bridge.
I want to show you what's been introduced into evidence as gloves.
She wasn't married. She has a kid with him and an
Yeah,
ex-girlfriend.
on the witness stand, yes, I believe.
Curtis Fry was likable. He was very calm-natured. You definitely saw that.
I want to show you State's Exhibit 51 and ask if you can identify it. And if I might ask the bailiff to hold the box for me while
Sure.
I'm doing this, Your Honor.
But she brought the police to where all this stuff was.
I'm showing you State's Exhibit 51. Do you recognize it?
Yes,
And what is that?
it's his jumpsuit.
Is that
Yeah,
the
she's
jumpsuit
free from all
you threw out
charges.
The window that day?
Yes.
Thank you.
She does look like a fluffy Drew Barrymore.
After this, did you end up having a conversation with Mr. Rogers?
Oh, I agree,
when
go,
you
I
were
girl.
in bed?
Yes.
And would you tell us what that conversation was?
I pretty much initiated it. I was like, I was pretty much just like, I knew that you had something to do with this, and, I'm sorry. I remember me bringing it up, saying that I knew that he had something to do with it, and he agreed with me. And I asked him if he killed her, and he said yeah. And then I asked him if he shot her with a gun, and he said no. And then I asked him how, and he said with a hammer.
And that was the exact same story she told in police interrogation 4 years ago.
Did that scare you?
Yeah, that's him.
You have to say it out loud.
Yes.
Sometime after that, did you end up meeting Wainwright and Angie Wright at the Hub Pub with Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
And was there a time when it was just Mr. Rogers, Wainwright,
Mr. Rogers'
Wright,
neighborhood.
and you on the balcony talking?
Yeah.
And what conversation occurred there?
No, it wasn't a balcony. It was at the table, I think.
Okay, so what conversation occurred at the table?
Wayne was just asking us questions like what the detectives were asking about him.
May we approach?
Sure.
My whole thought, this is in Florida. My whole thought, oh no, you know what? The crime happened in Florida. This is probably Michigan. It's either Michigan or Florida. They were really stupid criminals. But, like, can you imagine knowing that the father of your child is a fucking murderer? It's in Florida, okay. Look at a wedding ring, and I'm still single. What's wrong with this picture, guys? I'm letting that sink in. Well, they can't be kidnapped. We've learned that. She definitely has bad taste. But seriously, can you imagine? It's actually, I thought the ring was different from far away. But seriously, though, can you imagine knowing that you... I mean, I think my kids and my father's are psychos to begin with. But they're not murderers. There go my baby daddy. Neither one, I don't think, were capable of murder. But can you imagine that? You find Mr. Right. I know. I actually have to go out to find Mr. Right. Why did he kill the lady? For money. It was a $10,000. The husband was going to give him $10,000. I mean, she's just petrified. I don't know why am I behind on this case. He said he lived in Missouri. It says he lived in Missouri. Maybe he will find you. He's going to be the UPS man that delivers something from Amazon because I keep winning money from work. Certain creators' channels have been hacked. Who's been hacked? Husband, all right, it's a death penalty case. The Jimmy Rogers is going first. The mastermind behind the whole thing is the husband. They didn't want to try them together. They're trying them separately. And his trial is after Jimmy Rogers. There's 3 men involved. The husband, Mark Severs, Wright, I forgot Wright's first name, Wainwright. And then Jimmy Rogers. Wright took a plea deal of 25 to life. And then, hey, Layla. And then Jimmy Rogers is the one on trial now. The husband goes next. This is Jimmy Rogers. There's a going around hacking YouTube channels and putting up Judge Judy videos. Okay. Whose channel got hacked?
Good night, Mom.
Good night, hon. You going to bed already? You have a game tomorrow?
Yeah.
Alright. I love you.
Love you too. What time is the game?
I don't know.
Can you look? It's in the group chat.
Alright, I'll let you know.
I'm going to bed.
Alright, hold on.
Did you tell Mr. Wright?
Absolutely, Lily.
I do not remember.
Did Mr. Wright hand anything to you or Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Objection.
Overruled.
And what did he hand you?
An attorney's card.
Did Mr. Rogers have a nickname for himself?
Objection, Your Honor. Previous motion removed.
And both sides approach.
Well.
Okay.
2 o'clock.
Mr. Rogers have a nickname?
Yes.
And what was that nickname?
Jimmy the Hammer.
Now, were Wayne Wright and Mr. Rogers friends?
Yes.
What types of things would they do together?
Drink beer, barbecue, stuff like that.
Did you and Mr. Rogers
Locked
go
up
to the
tongue.
wedding of Wayne Wright and Angie Wright?
Yes.
I know, I just read that. I just read about it in my mods.
I want to show you what I've
Thank
marked
you,
for
Julie.
identification as 74.
Exactly. Jimmy the Hammer, the only thing that's going to get hammered is his ass in prison. That's the only thing that's going to get hammered. He'll be taking it up the butt.
What is 74? Do you recognize it?
Yes.
And where was this photograph taken?
At the DeSoto Walters Park.
And was that at the wedding of Mr. Wright and Mrs. Wright?
Yes.
You can approach.
He'll leave the light on, that's right. Lights automatically stay on.
Ross can approach. We don't need everybody. Well, then I'll instruct the witness to speak up.
Can you speak up louder so they can hear?
Yes.
And where was this?
At Wayne's wedding.
Move to introduce State's Exhibit 74F.
We'll show it admitted.
That's right, Jimmy getting hammered with a broom handle.
This picture?
Yes.
I'm going to hold the picture up like this for the jury. Can you point to where you are in the photograph? What are you wearing?
My black polka dot dress.
And who is standing beside you with the white shirt?
Jimmy.
Permission to publish, Your Honor?
You may.
Alright, so we saw this.
Mr. Seaver.
Yes.
Receive a check.
Yes.
And was added the amount of $400?
Yes.
Look at that corrections officer over there.
Is Taylor Schumacher. Did you recently change your name?
No.
Oh, you recently got married though, correct?
Yes.
And you testified to your oldest and youngest.
Why is she so low?
Children, is that right?
Yes.
Now, you testified that Mr. Rogers, Jimmy, has a nickname, Jimmy the Hammer. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you remember talking to me back last November 28th and 26th, 2018, excuse me?
Yes.
Okay. And at that time, you were asked the question, and your response was, not that I recall.
Hey, Tinker.
I don't recall that.
You don't recall. Would you like to see your deposition? Would that help you recall?
Sure.
Gosh, she's a bitch.
May I approach the witness?
Yes, ma'am.
You can read the whole page if you'd like. I will refer you down to starting at line 19. So when you were asked the question by me, have you ever heard anyone call him Jimmy the Hammer or the Hammer, your response was, not that I recall. Is that correct? Is that a
Yes.
yes? Thank you. Now I want to talk about, there's been some references to you talking to the police. Would it be fair to say that your first contact with them was on July 18th of 2015 when they came to your house. Is that right?
I'm unsure of the first date.
Well, you were asked by Ms. Ross about the day they came to your house the first time. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. Do you just not recall the specific date?
Yes.
Does that sound about right? July 18th?
This sounds about right.
Bye, Layla.
And then they came back to your house on August 25th with a search warrant. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes.
Date sounds about right. The second time you talked to them?
Yes.
Between those times, did you call the detectives?
No.
The state is death penalty case. They have
And
to.
then, let's see. You were with them when you showed them where the jumpsuit was, correct?
Yes.
Do you recall what time they came to your house that day?
See, this shit's boring. Like, who cares?
So, and do you recall that they took about an hour or so? How many people were there for that event prior to the wedding?
I don't know. Say around 10.
Okay. And was the plan that everybody was gonna go from there to go out together?
Yes.
Okay. And trip to Florida. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you were asked when that statement was made, before or
Come on, it was 4
while
fucking
you
years
were
ago.
leaving. Is that right? And referring to page
Not
53.
tonight, Layla, but I will.
At that time, my head was all messed up. Everything was happening so fast, and at that time, I did not remember that.
I know, but she's just got an ass. She's kind of an asshole.
At which time?
At the time of the law enforcement's recorded statements.
Okay. Well, the first time, or the second time, or the third time of the recorded statements?
I don't remember.
Jack, improper question. Object, counsel, testify.
Overruled, she answered she doesn't recall.
So you recall talking to the police in July the first time, correct?
Yeah, the first time. Mhm.
And then you had several unrecorded conversations with them the day of the search warrant. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you also gave a recorded statement later in that day. I think I asked you if it was around 7:30.
Yes.
Can you recall that? And then do you recall making 2 more statements on Friday, August 28th,
I don't remember.
2015? You don't remember?
I don't remember.
Would it help to see those statements?
Sure. Yes.
Statements 5297 through 5353.
Jack, Your Honor, the question is simply, do you recall a statement of August 28th? If counsel wants to show her the front page of the statement from August 28th, that I have no objection to.
She can look at the entire thing if it's going to refresh her recollection whether she gave it or not. And the minute she realizes she gave it, she can indicate that. And if she doesn't realize she didn't, then...
I think the court misunderstood my objection. Ms. George was going to hand her all 3 statements from the 25th as well as from the 28th. And I was just indicating...
Well, we do one day at a time.
Okay. You would just look at the front pages. Do you recognize that? you know what that is?
Yeah.
Is that the written version of a statement you made?
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell us the date on that?
Objection improper, refreshing of recollection.
And if you look at it and it refreshes your recollection as to the date, you can testify to that.
There are
Take your
3
time,
guys
you can
involved
look
in
at
the
document.
crime. Correct.
That was taken what time?
I do not remember the exact date. It was a long time ago.
We'll pick this up tomorrow. There's just too much of it. I mean, it's another like hour. And then there's Jimmy Wright's testimony. It's a lot of stuff. But I'm going to do more of both these cases after work on next week. Tawanda, I was just getting ready to call you, honey. I'm going to be covering both these cases. I may alternate, but the thing is, I work in the morning, so there's nothing I can do, in the morning. And I can't take off for work. So I'll definitely do the afternoon slots. I'll run it from 1 o'clock on, but that's literally the best I can do. So Julie, like I said, for anyone who's not familiar with this case, go to my channel. Well, they don't work on Saturday. Go to my channel. There's a short video explaining this case called Dr. Teresa Sievers or Killed with a Hammer. I forgot how I titled it. It's from about a week or two ago, and there you'll see it. So, but both trials started this week. The problem with former slow burn channel has been taken down over and going live by somebody else. Judge Judy? The problem is both these trials are very interesting, but this trial, they both started this week. But this trial is just so boring so far. But her testimony I wanted to see because I knew it was going to be really interesting. And it is actually really good. So I will see you guys tomorrow. What I might do is tomorrow at some point I may run. He's got football, but I may run and I got to get the wine glasses out. That I have to. And I still have to go pick up bubble wrap in the morning and mail them out. So I got a busy day tomorrow, but at some point this way we'll get them all covered and I will show you guys everything. So with that said, I'm going to close it out tonight. I see you in 20. Now, I don't think I'm going to do drama tonight. I'm so bored with the fucking drama. You have no idea. But if something comes up, hey, you never know. But yeah. Tomorrow morning I may go live on drama just to address a couple things that happened last night. So, but tonight, yeah, I think I'm gonna take a break from drama. I'm telling you, I'm so over it. It's so boring. So good night, Stacy. Good night, everyone. I'll see you guys in the morning, or I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.